And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. From Nazareth Hussein, we had the question of what is the Pokemon team of Max Steel? From the ever-popular series that I didn't remember at all, Max Steel. Which was around between, I want to say, 2013, 2015, somewhere around there, like 3 seasons worth of it. Look, I'm not overly, I like the name always struck a bell, rang a chord, but it was not something that I was overly familiar with. It was past my time from where I was actively watching cartoons. That said, I mean, I still watch cartoons, obviously, but as a guy in his mid-30s now, I don't always find the time for it. And a lot of time I'm just rewatching the same old stuff I always just enjoy watching. I'm just going to rewatch Animaniacs again, Batman the Animated Series. Hey, there's an episode of Ben 10 on. Good Ben 10, not the new crap Ben 10 they did. Yeah, I'll do that. But yeah, no, I don't get. This was not something that was on my radar. Still, looking into the character, I think I can do a pretty good team. Now, I'm going to spoil something right now. Based on what Max kind of is and how he works in his world, it's predominantly a Steel type team because Steel is not just his name, or the name we know him by, Max Steel. Steel is actually a sentient, organic, techno-computer creature thing, like a network that kind of bonds with Max. So he's not necessarily Max Steel. It's actually, his name is like, I think, Max Garson or something like that, or whatever. So Max Steel is actually Max/Steel. And because of that, it's going to be a lot of Steel types on this team. There is one non-Steel type on the team. We'll get to that in a second. But because of this, it allows the armor he wears and being merged with Steel allows him to use Turbo Energy, which allows him to morph his suit into various weapons like a sword, whips, drills, all that. He also gets a Turbo Cycle, lots of things. So out the gate, I went with Mega Metagross. Why? Because his Steel is also more or less his friend on some level. So bonding with him to a certain degree would unlock the ability to Mega Evolve or use Turbo Energy, Infinity Energy in Pokemon's case, to reach greater heights. So I think that works in his stead. Max is also pretty capable without Steel, for what's worth, fighting on his own. So I added Lucario on this team. Again, the ability to sense and use Aura, I think, can be likened to the ability to use Turbo Energy. So Lucario, I think, makes for a good third spot. Then the next few basically were like weapons that can be formed with the suit. For example, drills. Well, I went with Exactadrill or Exadrill on that. I think that makes sense. Ground Steel type makes sense. There's a sword that his dad used as well as a sword that he could form, so Aegislash made a lot of sense. Now, the sword can, in fact, split into two, so I did consider using Honedge over Aegislash, but I think you can use the whole split to kind of describe Aegislash's ability to go into offense and defense mode in this case. Now, this next one, honestly, I just wanted a mon that represented the suit of armor as a whole. Now, normally I would go with something like Pawniard or King Gambit or something like that, which is like a chess piece, but is basically also a suit of armor. But I didn't really like that. So I'm looking around through the Steel types, thinking what can work in this case. I ultimately settled on Scizor. Now, I have not actually put Scizor on a team ever. I put Mega Scizor on a team, but not Scizor. And I think that works. It's just it's an armored, Scizor. That's or Scyther. That's really what it is. It's stat distribution gets a little mixed in various spots. But Bug Steel is actually an insanely powerful typing because it only has one real weakness in fire. All the other weaknesses are counteracted to whatever degree. Bug's weakness to both flying and what was the other one it was weak to? Flying and rock, it's countered by the Steel. The Steel's weakness to ground, it's countered by the Bug. Yeah, Bug actually is resistant to ground. So the only real weakness a Bug Steel type has is fire. Unfortunately, it's quad weak to it, so that's a good trade-off. And I think that works well here. That this guy is pretty powerful, but he still isn't infallible. Last but not least, though, I knew when I saw Turbo like cycles and like things along those lines that can different types of vehicles. Miraidon. Now, Miraidon is not a Steel type. It's an Electric Dragon type. But when you look at it, you would be remiss to think it's a Steel type. Because all the Violet Paradoxmon, the future ones, look like they should all be Steel type. They're not Pokemon, they're goddamn robots. That was stupid. Why did you do that? There wasn't even a lot of creativity with them. At least the Scarlet Pass ones, you could like actually do some cool design work with some of them. But yeah, it's like literally just robotic Pokemon versions of those Pokemon. Yeah, Iron Hands had floating hands. I'm trying to think of anyone else here. Iron Valiant was like a combination of Gallade and Gardevoir, which was at least kind of clever. But I mean, Iron Thorns. Okay, its thorns are electric. Great. Anything else? Iron Bundle? Iron Treads, I give it credit. It looked kind of cool with the tusk face thing, but nah, give me the past ones. I think Scarlet beat their asses when it came to the paradoxes. Oh yeah, Iron Moth? Was supposed to look like a satellite. Literally just looks like a Volcarona that's made of metal and its wings are separated. Not very interesting, in my opinion. But yes, you'd be remiss to think it's a Steel type when it's not. That being said, I still think it works fairly well here. So then that begs the question, as always, how balanced is this team? Well, the answer to that is actually weirdly balanced, but weirdly not. It's got a couple heavy weaknesses, but a lot of strengths to it as well. For example, because it's almost all Steel except for one of them, and none of the extra typings of the Steel types resist fire, it's got a times 4 weakness to fire. It also has a times 4 weakness to ground, because while Scizor is resistant to ground, Miraidon being electric isn't. It also has a times 2 weakness to Ghost for the Psychic and the Ghost type on the team. It's got a times 2 weakness to Dark for the Dark and the Ghost for the Psychic and the Ghost type on the team. It's got a times 2 weakness to Fighting for for Lucario and Excadrill. But with the trade-off for that, though, is it's got a times 5 strength against Rock, Fairy, and Ice, simply for having the Steel type on its own. A times 2 strength against Steel, because you have a fighting type and you have a ground type on the team. Times 2 strength against Dark, because again, you have a fighting type on the team, and you have a bug type on the team. Times 2 strength against Poison, you have a psychic and a ground type. And a times 2 strength against Psychic, because you have a bug and you have a ghost type. So I think that's actually pretty balanced out. You have more strengths than you do weaknesses. Unfortunately, a couple of those weaknesses are fairly common. But does that hurt it in the long run? Believe it or not really. This is one of the most competitive teams you could have in the games. Why? Well, if you're just going with Kanto, now the Beldum, I would say, because Beldum normally only learns Takedown naturally, but if you egg move it can learn Zen Headbutt also. I went with saying that because it's a highly intelligent kind of supercomputer thing, to give the Beldum Zen Headbutt, just to give it that fighting chance, because otherwise, like the Rock type gyms, you probably wouldn't get past them. So yes, you're not going to have any single problem whatsoever for the first 6 gyms. Brock goes down easy. Misty, Lucario, you can have immediately because it evolves through friendship and during the day. So you just feed it a bunch of whatever, feed it whatever you need to do, give it massages, whatever, and then evolve it once, and you're good. So you can literally have a Lucario at the beginning of the game, no problem. Excadrill means that Surge is not going to be a problem. Your Steel type resists grass, no problem, and poison. Yeah, the Psychic might be a little problematic for 2 of your Mon, 1 of your Mon, honestly, but you should have no real problem. Once you get to Blaine and Giovanni, however, there is a problem. Miraidon is the only Mon you have on the team that resists fire, so you're going to have to lead with that and hope to God that that's going to do the trick, because otherwise, if that Miraidon goes down, you will have a problem on your hand. But fortunately, Dragon also resists fire, so I don't think you'll really struggle, but you got to lead with Miraidon. The other problem is Giovanni, who is a ground-type trainer. Now, his rock ground types like Rhyhorn, Rhyhorn? or Rhydon, depending which version. That will go down to like Lucario, no problem. But the rest of them, you have a problem there. Dugtrio alone can outspeed almost everything on this team, save for Mega Metagross. I believe Mega Metagross is faster, but not by much. And yes, the poison typing from his Nidos will be, what's the best way to put it? Will be mitigated mostly, but the fact is they're ground types without a strong weakness to anything you have. Yeah, they're immune to the poison typing, but both of those Nidos, I believe, have Earthquake on them. That's where problems are going to start to arise really fast. You're going to have to hit them as hard as you can with whatever you've got. Steel types moves aren't going to be that effective. You're going to have to go rely on something else. Bug for Scizor, ghost type moves for Aegislash, whatever you got going. Poison resist fighting, if I remember correctly. Psychic moves for Metagross. Like I said, Dugtrio is going to outspeed a lot, and Kangaskhan is there too. So it's not impossible to beat Giovanni, but it's not easy. But apart from that, you're going to sweep the Elite Four, I'd imagine. The Ice Lorelei is not going to be a problem. I don't even see Bruno being that big of an issue. 2 of your Mon are weak, but whatever. Agatha could be mildly annoying, but I shouldn't. And Lance, honestly, you really shouldn't struggle that hard with Lance. Just Steel resists Dragon to start with. Yeah, a couple of your Mon might have some extra weaknesses, but you should be fine. And honestly, Blue's team just isn't up to snuff to deal with this level of Steel typing. Even with a Fire type on the team, you just say Miraidon to deal with that Fire type. That's all you gotta do. And now, granted, there's a Rhydon on the team, but as long as you have Lucario there, or honestly, any of your Steel type moves should do the trick, I'd imagine, or they'd at least be neutral. Either way, you should actually be able to become champion of Kanto without too much problem. Johto, honestly, you can get through all of it, no problem. You'll get through all the gyms, quite frankly, without any difficulty whatsoever. The most difficult gym, I would say, is probably going to be based on when you're fighting him or when you're fighting them. It's probably going to be Morty, because Morty's a ghost type trainer. You will not have Excadrill or Metagross at that point. They won't be evolved. You won't even have Doublade at that point. You'd still have a Honedge. Morty would be the most problematic one to deal with. Is it impossible to win? No, God no. You still have Ghost Steel type on the team. Excadrill can still has, or sorry, it'd be Drillbur. Drillbur still has some moves you can do. Hopefully you have a move that can hurt ghost types on your Lucario, Metal Claw, whatever it may be. And you still have some Psychic type moves on the Metang at that point. But he would probably be the most difficult gym leader. Elite Four wise, you shouldn't really struggle with Will whatsoever. Metagross on its own, Aegislash and Scizor should be able to frankly take care of that team on their own. You'll resist the poison, even the explosion of the Fortress from Koga. Bruno, again, not a big deal. Karen could be a little problematic because she has a Houndoom, but Miraidon, again, can take care of that. Your biggest problem is going to, again, be Lance. Or it will be Lance. This is why this comes down to a maybe, because at level 50, your guys will be tough, but the problem is he has Gyarados with Intimidate, which is not good. No matter what Mon you have out, it's not good. And if that Miraidon goes down to any of the outrages, you have no answer against that Charizard. So it's really all going to be about timing when to throw a Mon out and how to deal with it. Because the Gyaradoses, none of your Mon, except for Metagross, and even then, it's not 100% guaranteed, have really the stats to be dealing with that thing when it's outraging, among other things. And that's not even the only move those things have. So it's touch and go. I'd say it's a maybe. Hoenn, honestly, your first big problem in Hoenn is going to be Flannery. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure you get past Flannery. Because just like in Johto, you will not have a fully evolved Metagross or Excadrill or Aegislash. You won't even have a Honedge. You won't even have a Doublade at this point. I'll be honest with you. I think you're stuck at Flannery. Even if you did have a Honedge, by the way, even if you did in Shadow Sneaked, that Torkoal is tanky as F. One Iron Defense on that Torkoal, And you don't really have an answer for that on this team. Even Drillbur with a ground type move is still under-leveled and under-evolved anyway. So I honestly can't see you getting past Flannery. Now, that being said, hypothetically, if you could, let's just play hypothetical. The rest of the gyms I don't think are a big issue. And even the bulk of the Elite Four should be fine. But you get to Drake. Now, Drake you'd think wouldn't actually be a big of a problem. Steel Resist Dragon, you got one Dragon Electric. But he's got two Flygons on the team with Earthquake. And Ground ruins this team. Wrecks it. Metagross can outspeed them, but if it can't one-shot them, you're in trouble. And then you got to deal with Steven. And ironically, this team is not well equipped to deal with Steven because despite it being Steel, the only mon you have on the team that's really designed to handle it is Excadrill and Lucario, and neither of them can deal with the Skarmory very well. You got to bring out Miraidon for that crap, and then you got to try to get it out of there before someone Earthquakes it. And then you still got to deal with Claydol. You still got to deal with Cradily. You still got to deal with Aggron. Armaldo is a weird one. And then his own Mega Metagross. So even if you could get past Flannery, which I honestly don't think you will, it would have to just be a maybe for me on that. Then in Sinnoh, honestly, even with Zen Headbutt, you might just be stopped at Roark just because that Cranidos has boulders on it and could take a hit, at least one hit from that Beldum, no doubt. It could. And when you add Bulldoze on there, I just don't see the Beldum surviving. So I'm not going to lie. I think you're done at Beldum, or you're done at Roark. If by some chance you got past him, though, Gardenia wouldn't be a problem. Fantina would be a bit problematic. In fact, Fantina actually would be a big stopgap right there. And if we're going by Platinum standards, because you don't have a good answer for Ghost yet. You don't have Honedge on the team. Conversely, Maylene is also a problem because she's a fighting type specialist, and you only have a Matang. And a couple of those, I don't know if it's Machoke or if it was, one of them has a dark type move on the team. Like I think it's Slack Off or Knock Off. So, yeah, that you're not in a good spot against either of the third gyms. So, yeah, I don't think, and even if you did get past all of them, you still got to deal with Bertha, who's a ground type specialist, who would definitely be problematic against this team. And then you got to deal with Cynthia down the road, who, again, problematic for this team. She starts off with Spiritomb, which alone is a problem for Metagross and for Aegislash. Either way, I don't think you could be the champion of this region. But with Unova, I do see you pretty much getting through the majority, if not all, of the gym leaders. The one you might struggle with in the beginning would be Chili in initial Black and White because of the fire typing. And Clay as the 5th gym leader being a ground specialist. Now, that being said, he also has Boulder, I believe. And he has... big words here. And he has Excadrill, so fighting should be able to take that down. After that, though, frankly, when dealing with the champions, both are a hard maybe. Iris's Hydreigon alone is actually a really bad matchup for Metagross. So that already you're struggling against. Then you got Haxorus, Aggron would probably go down to Lucario. Lapras you could take down with the Miraidon, no problem. Or same with Archeops. But yeah, it's not you probably stand a better chance against her than you do against Alder. Because if Alder takes out the Miraidon with the Vanilluxe, which I would imagine would happen, you are in trouble due to the fact that Volcarona gets one Quiver Dance off and you're effed. Just one Quiver Dance and you're done. Because you do not have a good answer to that Volcarona at all. That Volcarona will sweep. So it's a very loose maybe. Harder maybe on Iris, looser on Alder. What about Kalos? Well, honestly, the overall answer is probably a yes. Karina's going to be the only gym leader you're going to struggle with. Because, again, you wouldn't have a Metagross at this point. You have a Matang. And yes, it's Psychic. Yes, it's Steel. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of them do. I don't believe they have any Dark-type moves. Lucario and Excadrill or Drillbur at this point would just be they would not be able to make it. You'd be relying solely on Matang. And it could be game over there. It could be a game over there. But I think you could get past her. And if you get past her, Diantha actually is not going to be a problem this time around. Her ace, Gardevoir, is a psychic fairy type, and Steel beats Fairy's ass. So there you go. Then you go into Galar, you stop at Kobu. Or I can never do it. Is Kofu the one from Paldea, or is that Kobu? And then vice versa. I want to say it's Kobu is the fire one. Either way, the third gym, the fire gym, you're done. You can't deal with it. You can't beat him. Like, just straight out. One of his ace is Centiskorch, which Gigantamaxes, and it says bug type moves and fire type moves to deal with pretty much everything on the team. And because it's bug, it's going to resist whatever fighting type moves Lucario has. And it's fire, which means your steel type moves aren't very good. You're screwed again. And that's not even dealing with his Ninetales or Arcanine. Yeah, you're done. You cannot get past that guy. Even if you did beat it through every other gym leader, which I'm not 100% saying you could. B alone would be a problematic, and so would Alistar. But even if you could and tried to fight Leon, you'd get past the Aegislash. And then the Dragapult with Flamethrower nearly all of your team. It's like, wait, here's Miraidon. I outspeed Dragon Breath. Oh, like, yeah. So, again, that goddamn Dragapult should have been his ace. I'll say it to the day I die. It should have been his ace. Last but not least, you get into Paldea, and I'll say this is a big maybe. In fact, this is a very strong maybe. The gym leaders, Beldum would struggle to a degree against Katie because of the psychic bug typing with Zen Headbutt, but just use the takedown once in a while, it should be fine. Grass type gym with Brass. At that point, once you just get past the first one, the amount are strong enough that you shouldn't be having a problem with any of the gym leaders. Rika is really your only real test. And this is honestly just due to the fact that she's a ground type gym leader. And she has a Numble on the team, or Elite Four member. And she has a Numble on the team, too. You're gonna have your work cut out for you on Rika. Because even though most of her mon are slow, she also still has Dugtrio. And that thing is not slow. In fact, and like I said, it outspeeds, I think, everything except for Miraidon and Mega Metagross. I think those are the only two mon it outspeeds. Or that outspeed it. And even then, there's no guarantee you're going to win. So, it's a maybe. Because I think you'll handle Poppy without too much. Because you have Lucario there. So that should be no real big issue. Plus, you also have Excadrill. Larry's a flying type specialist. And quite frankly, none of his mon are really all that strong. At least not against this team. Hassel is a dragon type trainer. So, I mean, you can pull out Miraidon. Might not be like a guaranteed win, but you can do that. And then, frankly, you should be fine. Gita's team is just weird. It's not very well designed, and the AI does not use it properly. Like, her ace should have been the King Gambit, which she uses correctly later on in the DLC. But yeah, either way, there's no mon on the team that is a big threat. You can handle the Veluza really without any issue. You can handle the Go-Goat, no problem. Avalugg goes down hard. King Gambit's one of the only ones that would be a problem, but Lucario handles that, no problem. Espathra and Glamora, yeah, no, you can handle Gita, you can just sweep. So is this team perfectly balanced? God, no. Does it lose to some regions? Yeah, it does. But is it still relatively powerful? Oh, yes, it is. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I got to go put my computer on the charger.